Thank you. So hello everybody, thank you for your wonderful check-ins. My name is Samsarah Morgan. I'm the founder and executive director of the Oakland Better Birth Foundation. And all my students are looking at me like, well, we know that. Well, there are all these people that I'm taping this for and they don't know that, so I want to make sure they know that. It's my pleasure to talk to you this evening and give a presentation as part of the Doula Basics curriculum. That is part of the Certified Community Birth Worker Program. And we're going to be talking about the birth plan today, which is required of Schiffer Circle's doulas that we do a birth plan with our clients. And in a few minutes I'll talk about why that is. The birth plan, like everything having to do with birth, can be considered a controversial thing. There are doula groups who don't think that they're necessary, and and there's certainly a lot of OBs that don't think that they're necessary. But it's been my experience in doing this work that I think the birth plan is one of the most important things that we help bring to the table for a client. Along with the specific practice, having a regular habit of checking in with client around diet and exercise and other things like that, the birth plan is the other helpful tool that we bring to the table. We are facing crisis in infant and maternal mortality in the country, specifically for African American women. But all women are not doing well in birth, as we know. It is very interesting how we do in other areas of our lives. If we're planning any big event, we are not, there's no confusion around the fact that, like, say you're planning a wedding. There's a special app that helps you plan everything, and people who are professional planners who will come and help you plan this big event, this rite of passage event in your life. For some reason, in this culture, how we've evolved through patriarchy and white supremacy, and capitalism, it has been found a lot more productive to these organizations in making money and feeling they have a sense of power and control, and telling the woman that she just show up and we'll take care of you. Right? To have a healthy pregnancy, what do you have to do? You show up to your prenatal appointments, you pee in the cup. I don't even think they measure bellies anymore. It's all the sonogram, right? Like, doctors hardly touch you. And the average time that you spend with your OB in this country, once you get past his or her staff, it's like 6 to 8 minutes. So how much information are you actually gathering about your body and your baby and what's happening inside of you month to month? Very little. And we see that also, we see that heightened in the African American community, where disparities make the time that you actually spend with your OB even shorter. And then there are issues of race and class that make it hard sometimes for doctors to communicate with clients in an effective and a non-shaming way. Because the system itself looks at black women as a problem, and the fact that they're having a baby is a problem. And they're already considered to be high risk. So there's not a lot of energy in doing the work of talking and mothering and listening to the client that's needed to flush out any potential problems that might get in the way of a woman being able to birth her baby successfully. Okay. I've had doctors tell my clients that, well, birth is just so unpredictable. So you can't plan for that. It's just so unpredictable. And that, again, I look a little sideways at that too. But yeah, life is unpredictable, but we still have a plan for our life. We may have to tweak it. We may have to reinvent it and re-evolve it. But there's all these workshops and seminars on how to keep lists. Except for when you're having a baby. You just float ephemerally through the air and show up at the hospital and it's all going to be all right. So, you know, we're chuckling about this, not because it's funny, but but because it's funny peculiar. And one of the main things that we do as doulas is that we educate and we give what's called informed consent. Okay? We, especially Shipper Circle doulas, feel that it's very important that we help our client to be as informed about the birth process as possible, informed about every little thing that is going on inside of her body, the development of her little baby, and all the things that she can do to help encourage the healthiest, most robust baby that she can grow in her body. Right? And to encourage her to be in the optimal health that she needs to be in, to be able to go through the birth process, to work with the birth process, and to be able to push out her baby the way she envisioned pushing out her baby. There are folks who have a desire for a natural birth. They have a burning desire in their hearts, but we do not live in a culture where we're seeing other women do this natural birth stuff. Even women who are choosing, who feel like they want medications in their birth, they're not being told the potential side effects of the medications that they're choosing. I've had clients who felt strongly that they were going to have an epidural, and then after working with me, ended up with a natural birth. Right? I've had clients who felt strongly that they weren't going to have medications, but then chose to have medications during the birth, but at least they knew what they were signing up for. And if there were any side effects, they knew what they potentially could do to mitigate it or to reduce harm. Right? A goal without a plan is just a wish. One of my favorite quotes is the first quote, I believe, in my book that I wrote on the subject of the birth plan. Why have a birth plan? Because why not? And like every other important aspect of our lives, we do want to sit down, even put pen to paper, put our minds to prayer and meditation, have a vision of ourselves, having our babies, being parents, if we feel that that's our life path. It's not cool for little girls to dream about having babies anymore. Everybody gets really upset with that. And it's actually it breaks my heart. You know? It's not okay for people to feel like they have to have a baby. Not everybody has to have a baby. But the folks who do, that's part of their life. So why can't you go to college and do all the other things that you want to do and have babies too? Why is it compartmentalized in that way? So people are pregnant without even a vision, dream, or goal of being pregnant. Most of our babies are not planned in our culture. We end up somehow pregnant and then we decide to keep the baby. However that happens for people, it's important to take a deep breath and like, okay, now we are going to vision what we've said yes to, actively or passively. We're going to vision this little baby growing inside of our bodies, and we're going to look at what this little baby needs. And even long before you get to the hospital or birthing center or home birth to birth the baby, you're looking at, the environment that the baby is growing in, and that's the mom or the birthing person. Right? The first step is to have that vision. Some folks say, we don't want to do that because if it turns out another way, I'm going to be disappointed. I don't want to have a birth plan. I want to be open to whatever happens. You need to know what's going to happen so you can be open to whatever can happen. So part of the process of doing this birth plan is looking at all of the potential things that can happen so you can be open to it. Of course, you can be open to the process of your birth. One of the things, though, that's important for people to know, for women to know, is that nature is on the side of a healthy woman. The odds are of a healthy woman being able to birth her baby well and survive the process are very high. Okay, so the odds are, one of the movies that we show during our meetup night, the last line of one of the practitioners is that it's reasonable to expect that your birth will be wonderful. And that's the big message that we want to really encourage moms to do. Even moms who somehow know they want a natural birth have all the story of torture and pain in their heads. And it's like, what if it doesn't have to be torture and pain? What if it can be hard work that's not torture and pain? Right? It's hard work to have a baby. It can be uncomfortable. It sometimes can be very uncomfortable depending upon the position of the baby and some other things that are going on. But how many women, back before there was all those medications given to everybody, how many women had many more children than women have today? When I was a young one growing up in Brooklyn, families of, Catholic, so, families of 10, 12, 13 children were common. So really, it couldn't only have been but so bad. Anyway, so the birth plan is also a very important tool for us working with the client and for us getting to know that client's deep vision, because one of the most important things that we do is we help the client formulate her deep vision, and then we safeguard it, we shepherd it, we protect it. The only people who get to change the client's deep vision is the client herself, nobody else. Okay? So the plan itself opens the door for the discussion and education of the family and the many controversies in birthing in the United States. It's not just showing up and letting the process happen. We get to talk to clients about medications, we get to talk to them about inductions, immunization, circumcision. We want to talk about what is natural, there's a typo here, anyway, it should be natural unmedicated childbirth, cesarean section, breastfeeding. We get to talk to them about co-sleeping, family bedding. We get to talk to them about environment for birthing their babies, where they're doing a home birth, a birth center, or a hospital birth. One of the most exciting things that we get to do in this community, in this practice, is to talk to folks about the possibility of having their baby outside of the hospital. And reaching out to midwives in the community and seeing if a midwife can take a low-fee client. We do have those connections and we can reach out. And Pacifica Family Center is starting up a scholarship fund. And I'm going to be on the board of directors of the fund, in helping to determine and helping to set protocols for who gets supported. So all exciting things. If somebody wants to have a natural birth, the best environment to do that, and they're healthy and they're eating well and taking good care of themselves, is a birth center or home birth. No doubt, statistically, no doubt in any way, shape, or form. So the more we can kind of lean folks towards the possibility of a home birth, will be helping to reduce mortality numbers significantly in that way. And having women who are, also addressing less postpartum depression, greater satisfaction in the birth process, all these things that are just the most excellent things for our communities. We want mamas who just are transformed and illuminated by their birth process as much as possible. Because those are the women who are going to kick society's butt and be really good, fierce, protective moms. You have a question? You can ask a question. Come on, girl.
For home birth and for the birthing centers, is there like a national registry that we can, at some point, maybe compare that to show how successful home birth is?
There are already online many successful, many good studies. Some done in this country, most done in Europe, about the efficacy and the greater satisfaction, lower mortality, less medication use in home birth. There's a lot of information about that, I'm sure. There's not a registry of it, though. That's a good question. Does anybody else have a question since I took a pause? So discussions of all of these subjects with our clients helps us to build rapport with them, build a friendship with them, and increase the client's understanding of U.S. birthing culture. Once you get pregnant in the United States of America, you enter a whole new world. It's a different world than you've ever been in your life. We're the tour guides. Hello, welcome to pregnancy. Here are the rocky roads, here are the pitfalls. There's the quicksand. Piranhas swim over there. Here are where the dolphins play. Come over here to where the dolphins are. As you discuss each topic, be sure to assist your client in finding science-based support for the natural conscious birth. She's not just crazy. People will tell her that. Friends and family will tell her, you're crazy. Why do you want to feel all that? Blah, blah, blah. There is wonderful information online, and there's books that I'm going to suggest, and in your training, you're going to be receiving information that talks about, when we have to back up what our heart tells us with science in this world. And luckily in birth, there's a whole bunch of science that backs up what we know in our hearts. So pull that out for your client so she can feel like, she's not a crazy person. She's a normal birthing person. And she wants to go through this experience. And she's not crazy for wanting to go through it consciously. Moms who are afraid, pregnant people who are afraid of birth are not crazy either. There's been a lot of shenanigans and lies told about birth. I was reading something relatively recently saying that women fear birth now more than they've ever feared in the history of human women. And I don't think that's a lie. I see that in my clients all the time. Every image that you see of birth is painful and terrifying and destructive. All the medical shows have like the high-risk OBs on there. They don't have the OB where the baby just slides out. And, everybody celebrates. They have, the baby has a particular horrible problem, and you got to run everybody up to the ER, and there's drama, and fear. So, we spread the good news about birth, that it's not crazy to want to feel it, that it can even be amazing and wonderful, that it will change your life forever for the better. And it has within it the biochemical components that are going to help you to raise the specific child that you're birthing right now. Every pregnancy is different. Every journey is different. Every human consciousness coming through its parent has different needs. And being able to go through that entire process as unmedicated as possible, bless you, makes you available to receiving that information and acting upon it when your child needs you to act upon it. So, we have neurologists telling us a little bit of this information. I'm still putting in some stuff because I'm like the spiritual doula, Catholic grandma. But more and more, neurology is really catching up with the spirituality and pointing out how that is really true. That the woman's central nervous system has to be free and open, and even the discomforts of labor carries message and information. And I just take it a little further to say that I believe that information is the specific information for that specific child. I haven't read anything sciencey that said that, but my heart says that, so we'll go with that too. Also, I've been pregnant more than once. And so as a person who's been pregnant more than once, I remember the different journeys and needs. And it's never the same. And, these beautiful sons and their different needs, so. I think it's also important for us, when we're having these conversations with our clients, to emphasize that we're not anti-medication. We're not anti-surgery. We simply want people who need medicine to get medicine. We simply want people who need surgery to have surgery. We're in a position in this country where almost half the women who go into certain hospitals and more are having C-sections. And I've been saying this since I was a little bitty baby doula, that if we had any other animal, that we had 50 to 75% of them couldn't give birth without assistance, we would be having a telethon for that animal. Like there's something wrong. But we accept that as okay and normal for human beings. You know? And it's also very important to notice that 50 to 75% and more, depending upon the hospital that you're in, likelihood of having a C-section is not happening in Europe. There are other places, they have big shiny hospitals in Europe too. But very few of their women are receiving C-sections. Much more of their women are having vaginal births. Much more of their women are being supported by midwives. Right? So until we pull it together here in this country, we have to be, informing folks of what their rights and possibilities are, and also helping them if they do come into a situation where medicines are needed and would be helpful. Just because you're afraid, I would like to encourage a client to use many more tools to deal with fear. Because medicating your fear only could potentially bring you more problems from the side effects of the medication. Right? There's hypnotherapy, there's massage, there's all the stuff that's in the doula's bag of tricks that we can do to deal with the fact that you're afraid. We understand that you're afraid. Even if you came from a perfect culture when you saw beautiful births, it still would be for a first-time mom, the first time she's doing this. So there's a natural fear of the anticipation of doing something that you've never done before. So let us put all of these natural tools in use for you, and see, as I've been able to see mama after mama after mama, they get to that point where they kind of make friends with those hormones, and they kind of look. There was one beautiful client that we had that her birth energy, in my mind's eye, kind of felt like a serpent. And it would rise up, and she would stare at it. And they would duke it out, eyeball to eyeball. And it was very interesting watching her labor, because she was kind of just trying to make peace with it. She had had a previous labor that was very, very difficult for her and was traumatic. And she was like stepping into her labor bit by bit. And it started out where that energy was far away from her. And it would kind of slither over close to her, and she would kind of look at it. And then it would go away, and like her labor would stop. She went through several cycles of that. It was beautiful to behold. It was about her making peace with it. Like she would allow it to come closer, and she would allow it to come closer, and as she did, the labor got stronger and stronger and more progressive. It's beautiful, So if she had just said, well, I'm afraid and I'm going to cut that process off, how much benefit would she have lost from being able to master that fear, in her own space and in her own time? So, information, support, education, all of our wonderful doula tricks helps to reduce fear. If a client is having a home birth, do they need a birth plan? Yes, they do. Most home birth clients, most birth center clients have their babies exactly where they plan. Statistically, you plan your home birth, you have your home birth. You plan your birth center birth, you have your birth center birth. Every once in a while, though, something happens or there's a condition. Psychotic landlords screaming at people when they're trying to be in labor, and we can get into that. Annoying people that you want to just vaporize, and other things. So family would, the decision gets to be made that going to the hospital is the best and safest alternative. The midwife would talk to the client, and they would make that determination based on whatever the situations are that are going on. parents who transport and have had no discussion about the hospital have a really hard time. You know, they had their vision, it's talking about being flexible earlier on and being able to roll with the situation that's being presented in front of you. If you have no information about what's going to happen now, you have to leave your safe place which is your house. You have to go to this other place and you don't know anything of what they're asking you. They're using terminology you don't know. That's a setup for a lot of disappointment. That's a setup for things going even more south. There's some sound reasons for going to the hospital that have nothing to do with an emergency whatsoever. Some janky reasons to have to go to the hospital because now we have a situation where midwives, if you go past 42 weeks, a midwife has to recommend that you go to the hospital. So that's not a good, sound medical reason in my opinion. There's some science we can talk about that some other time, but when the client has a birth plan, she can manage her disappointment about the change of birth venue and then be able to settle herself down with, okay, now here is this new set of tools. How am I going to use these tools to my best advantage? She can still have power and authority and agency, and she, her whole plan and vision is not going to get thrown out. There's still lots of things that are on that birth plan that could still be, she can still see the fruition of. Did you have a question?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if there's ever a situation in which you might, where the birth plan for a home birth or a birth center client includes things that are specific for home or specific, or is it just not necessarily because they're building that relationship with their midwife, and so that kind of comes with the plan? Do you see what I'm saying?
You don't have to ask for respect from your midwife. The midwife is not, you know, if you're at the birth center or at your home, she's going to assume you're going to want dim lights, and if you want them, you'll just dim them. You know what I mean? You're not dealing with different posses and crews of people and shifts who are also, when they're trying to do the right thing, when hospital staff is trying to do the right thing, they use the birth plan to try to get to know the clients, because they're just walking and meeting these people cold, you know. And sometimes in the hospital, the nurses who are natural birth positive, be like, oh, you have a natural birth, you have a family with a birth plan, I want to work with them. Because they actually enjoy helping people, you know, have their natural vaginal birth. So, you know, it's helpful for that. But at home, there's certain things the midwife is, you know, you don't have to fight with your midwife about those things. You can have conversations with them. The client already has the rapport and the respect. Otherwise, they should have fired that midwife. Not like all midwives are perfect, but if someone had met with that midwife and couldn't talk to her, they don't need to hire her. Like, you're stuck with the doctor that walks in your hospital room. Well, you can ask. Sometimes you are able to switch people up, but not always. You know, so yeah, it's very specific. So what I love to do with home birth couples home birth families is that you have your birth plan, they sit through all this stuff that they're like, oh, I don't want any of that stuff. Then they have their home birth or their birth center birth, and then I have a ceremony where we rip the birth plan up after the birth because they didn't use it. They didn't need to use it. You know, but they were prepared. They had that informed consent. They were prepared. So what does a birth plan actually end up looking like? In my book that I've written, and there's a document that I will send everybody that's online. In my book, I have a checkoff list that has all of these possibilities, different stages of labor, for couples to think about, to read, to look at. That list is really not meant to be used as to just, I'm going to rip it out and check it off and hand it in, because there's way too much stuff to read on that. I just want families to be able to look at all these various possibilities for them to discuss and decide what they want and what they don't want. A birth plan, really, they used to tell you back when you were writing your resume how you only wanted to have your resume be one page. And I really recommend that for a birth plan as well. The birth plan should be 2 one-page documents. One page is care for mama, care for the birthing person. Okay? The different stages of labor, what does she want, or what does the birthing person want during the different stages of labor. Okay? Soft slides, please don't mention pain medications. If I want them, I will ask for them. You know, we are, you know, those are the 2 biggest ones, but there's a bunch of other things that like what you might want to have. Don't when I'm in the pushing stage, don't tell me how to push. I want to find my own feet of pushing. I want to be in upright positions. I want intermittent monitoring. I don't want monitoring the whole time that I'm here laboring with my baby. And they're going to say, you know, well, we don't do that here anyway. And my experience is that if you don't state your preference, some shifts might not do that, other shifts totally do that. Unfortunately, though, you know, it gets people's rankles up, I've seen African American and Medi-Cal clients treated very differently from white clients or middle-class clients or clients who appear to be more educated or whatever their basis criterion is. So if you get someone who looks like she doesn't know that she doesn't need to be on the monitor the whole time, she could end up being on her back in bed on the monitor the whole time she's there having her baby. So thus decreasing the possibility of her being able to birth naturally and for her baby to be in a good position for pushing and all like that. So you have 1 page for the birthing person or mama. We have 1 page for the baby. What immunizations is the parent wanting to have at this time? Do they want to have vitamin K? Are they circumcising their baby boy? If they are breastfeeding, don't offer my baby pacifiers, don't offer my baby water. You know, being very mindful of the fact I want skin to skin right away. I'm taking my placenta home, pack it up. Don't give me any nonsense about why I can't have my placenta. Right? 2 separate things. Because in the hospital, there really are 2 separate staffs that take care of birthing people and the people, the babies once they're born. Right? There's the OB staff, and then there's the pediatric staff. Pediatric staff doesn't really need to know that, you know, the mom wants Enya playing while she's dating myself. Who doesn't see Enya anymore? Enya used to be the thing for birth. Got to the point where everybody was sick of Enya because, like, oh my Lord. Not many times could I hear the song. I still loved it. Like, we're going to do birth and listen to Enya. You know, the pediatric staff doesn't really need to know about that. They need to be, you know what the family's wishes are with regard to the baby. Go ahead.
In terms of the care for the baby and the birth plan, once the baby is born, is it necessary to also indicate that you don't want a formula to be offered?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are breastfeeding. Don't give our baby formula. Don't give our baby sugar water. Don't give our baby a pacifier.
Give baby sugar water?
Yeah. Don't give my baby any of that stuff. And actually, what is formula? Really? What's the first ingredient? High fructose corn syrup. So that you're still giving your baby mega doses of sugar and GMO sugar at that. So that's another workshop. So yes, so please don't give our baby any of that. We plan to breastfeed. Vitamin K, all of those things. Do we want them? Do we don't want them? How does the family know what they want on their birth plan? You have discussed it all fully with them. So they know the ramifications of all those things. They know the things that they're going to have to sign a release form. New doulas, don't worry about it. If you don't know that now, you will soon. are admitted into the hospital, you sign a form that says that you give them permission to do everything that they feel is medically necessary for you and your baby. The birth plan and then signing all those waivers is you pulling back your rights from them. Otherwise, that's why, you know, some old school nurses and doctors are just not used to talking to the patient. They just do whatever. I'm not going to talk to you. You've already given them permission to do whatever they feel is in their best interest, you know. And so now they have to stop and think, oh, why are you asking me questions? Some doctors get kind of insulted by that. Like, you don't trust me? Like, you know, you're not my daddy or my mommy. And actually, you're not above me. You're the medical practitioner helping me have my baby. And so I have the right to ask you questions and for you to give me answers. And if I'm satisfied with your answers, then I might say yes to what you're saying. But I'm a person and you have to converse and connect with me. And that's really challenging for doctors who don't have good bedside manner, who are not professional or come from that old patriarchal school. You know? You were going to say something?
I do. Have you experienced any of your clients decline to sign the medical waivers or the release of
Decline to sign them?
Mm-hmm.
If they can't have what they want unless they sign them. So if you're saying I don't want vitamin K, say.
Well, not just those specifics. I know that in general, when you are admitted to the hospital, you're signing waivers and forms, releasing information. I don't know what else that's waiving your rights in case something happens at birth.
Right.
But have you ever experienced a patient saying, no, I don't want to sign any of those?
Then you can't be in the hospital. You have to.
They'll tell you.
They can't treat you. They can't do anything to you. You have to sign. And then you have to sign the waivers to get rights back that you signed away. Lawyers are involved, clearly.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, at least I've noticed with Kaiser, that they give their clients like a checklist birth plan now. Like it's like their birth plan, and then you check off what you want. I want to
well, not trying to pick on Kaiser, but that thing's very paltry. You see how many questions are in the sheets in my book? There's a lot of choices. And I think that thing is like, it's 4 pages. It's 4 pages, but it's lacking meat and depth. You know? Also, we want to talk about on the birth plan, if I am having a cesarean section, and the choices that I still have around having a cesarean section. How I want to be stitched up. You know, who can be in the operating room with me? You know, all these other things. There are lots of choices. And, you know, that plan is okay, but it doesn't come anywhere near all the choices that people really do need to make.
And then I have one more question.
Go for it.
When people write their birth plans, do you recommend that they write like narrative, bullet point? Like how does it look? Like how should it look?
You know, different clients have different ways of doing that, and I kind of like to let folks be kind of creative about it. Some people break it down by stage of labor, kind of classically. You'll kind of see that if you look on birth plan, like spreadsheets online and things like that. There are free birth plan spreadsheets where you can just check things off, which are a lot more extensive than the Kaiser worksheet you just print it up. I think it's a good exercise when couples sit together and make these decisions together and write them down. So I try to encourage that as much as possible, because you know there are people who are together in relationship and they only know each other's favorite color, much less whether they want vitamin K for the baby after the birth. So it's really good for them to kind of sit down and be like, okay, let's plan this all through. Let's talk about all this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know they were going to offer us this or suggest that, and why. They get on Google, they do some homework, they call me, they ask questions. And, you know, it's part of them just really getting on board, being really informed. So, what was your initial question?
Yeah, yes, the different ways that you can write a birth plan.
Yeah, so sometimes we break it down, sometimes folks break it down by stage of labor. What do I want in active labor? It could, you know, set up for the hospital room. What do I want during, support I want during transition, the support that I want during pushing, delivery of the baby. It's all mama care. Don't want Pitocin after the birth. And then we move on to, then there's a little section, in case there's a C-section, I want these things. You want to keep it positive. You want to be like, these are the things I want, rather than the things I don't want. And then for our baby, hello pediatric staff, thank you for taking good care of our beautiful baby. These are the things that we want. Of course, regard for our little baby Anthony, and we're not circumcising him. So, and it's important because there have been people who didn't want their kids circumcised and didn't indicate and ended up with a circumcised kid. Yeah. Set your hand up. I'll be right there. Oh, sorry, wave. Here's Jessalyn over there trying to get my attention. Yeah, see, and we know that we're going to have to sign a waiver for these things. Please just present it to us. We'll be happy to sign it. Thank you for your care for our beautiful baby. Thank you for being with us at our birth. And then, people get all expressive. Some people just, I have some birth plans that have like 10 sentences on them. Don't do this stuff. We don't want this stuff. And then, whatever. So, as long as they have everything, as long as I feel like I've given them all the information and they're indicating their nice, clear choices, you want to have it one page. You want to try to not have it like teeny tiny type, because nurses are reading on the run and they're reading in your dimmed room with the nice music playing, so they're kind of like trying to read your document. So, nice, 12 point would be nice for the poor nurses. Because they do, more and more, they do try, they do ask to see the birth plan, they do ask if the family has one. If something is on the birth plan that they feel like the family, for some reason, might not be able to have, they'll engage in discussion about that, and you can engage in discussion with your client about what that might be. After you have created the birth plan with your clients, they need to discuss their birth plan with their doctor and midwife. This is a situation where it's helpful for clients. I always suggest for clients to really kind of pay attention to the doctor when the doctor's looking at their birth plan. Kind of gives you a clue about how much and how respected your wishes are, how the doctor kind of regards the birth plan and engages in discussions with you about the birth plan. I've had clients change their doctor at the last minute because their attitude was very flippant or disrespectful of the birth plan, and best to do that if you're feeling not engaged and not respected by your doctor than to wait till you're in labor. So, important to note. Go ahead.
Since you mentioned, like, in case of C-section or in case of transport, can you speak to the importance of, whether it's in the written plan or in the discussion with the birth team, like, talking about unwanted or even worst case scenarios and why that's important to go over ahead of time? And sometimes that means... So, like, can you just talk about why it's important? Like you've talked before in the past about, like, addressing either fears or worst case scenarios, but even with the birth plan itself, discussing things that we think are like completely not what we're expecting or not what we're wishing, but why it's important to include that stuff anyway.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Well, C-section was one that you just mentioned, but even in the case of the baby needing to go to the NICU or some other kind of morbidity issue.
Well, if the baby, then we're talking about the plan for the baby. So if the baby had to go to NICU for some reason, then things would be on the birth plan like daddy would go to the NICU with the baby. Daddy goes with the baby to make sure that the wishes of the family continue to be followed through. Maybe the baby had issues with meconium, and they want to go and they want to do a deep cleaning out of the baby's lungs. Okay, so off they go to the NICU to do that. Very often they can do a lot of stuff in the room nowadays, which is quite nice. But if the baby needed that more in-depth care, Down the hall, they'd go to the nursery with the baby, and daddy or partner would be right behind. You know? So yeah, that's, things like that could be in the birth plan as well. If for some reason my baby needed care in the NICU, daddy would be going. If we have a cesarean section, you know, it used to be, they're not allowing this anymore, but it used to be, say the mom had the C-section, at Alta Base, you used to be able to, as a doula, get gowned up and wait outside the operating room door. When they came out of the operating room with the baby, daddy could go out with the baby, or partner, and go down to the nursery where they would be double checking the babies with C-sections. Of course, sometimes they need to have more aspiration and all this stuff. And then the doula could slip right in and be with the mom while she's being prepared. So she's not alone. They don't allow that anymore. It's a drag. It was a very sweet, nice thing. So the mom could be there. Also, the doula's right there in the operating room to ask, when can they get back together? When can the mommy and baby get back together? You know, where's Papa? Where's partner? Where's baby? I think that's why they stopped letting it be something that we can do. You know, so one more person in the room who's not family is a pain in the neck, asking questions. But yeah, so things like if I have a C-section, I want to be, you know, reunited with my baby as soon as possible. We want to be skin to skin as soon as possible. We still want to breastfeed. All of those things would be, at that point, for the things that Justin is bringing up, we're talking about, those things would be on the baby plan. One of the things that I meant to do for you this evening that didn't get done was for you to be able to see samples of clients' birth plans. And I will be, this presentation is a Google Doc that I'm going to add you guys all to. And then I will add I will add that information to the Google Doc so you can take a look at it. So you can see the different ways that clients have done their birth plans. So let me,
I'll let you finish.
okay. So I was going to say, we talked about the client needing to discuss her birth plan with her doctor or midwife. Even if most doctors here in the Bay are part of rotating practices, it's probably not going to be the same person that she's talking to that's actually going to deliver her baby. But what the doctor can do after discussing the birth plan with her is to put a copy of it in her file or scan it into her file. So when she comes in to give birth, her birth plan is in there online. We still should bring, the doula should still carry at least 2 copies of the birth plan with her when she comes in with her client. Because magically, it's amazing how things that should be in the file or scanned are not there. So you have the backup copies. The birth plan, the birth plan is a very important tool. It gives the clients information and language which is vital in advocating for themselves. When doctors come at them with medical terminology, they have some understanding of what all that means, and they can answer back in such a way that it makes for clear communication between the client and the doctor. It gives a doula a clear vision of the client's deep vision for their birth, and it gives a document that can be referred to if the medical staff isn't respectful. Doulas cannot speak for their clients. It's a myth that doulas are client advocates. We cannot advocate in the hospital. We do our work before we get to the hospital with the education and respect and love and preparation for birth. Once we're in the hospital, we're the beloved guests of our client, and the hospital's doing, some hospital staffs are very respectful towards doulas and some are not. If you see something going on that you know is against your client's deep vision, the only hope you have and help you have is to refer to the birth plan. You can say to the nurse, I'm so sorry that wasn't on their plan. That's not what they asked for. Isn't that right, Daddy? And they immediately pull a family member in. You know, trying, of course, to not pull the mom in if you don't have to because she's trying to birth or she just gave birth or whatever the situation is. But, you know, her partner, husband, mama, those are the people who go, yeah, she didn't want that Pitocin after the birth. What's going on? Yeah. The birth plan is an important tool for being able to help you speak up for your clients. Was there a question? Go ahead.
Have you had any clients that have presented with female genital mutilation?
With what, I'm sorry?
Female genital mutilation.
I have not worked with any of that population, no.
If a client should share that information,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be on her birth plan, maybe just like how she wants things to go for her.
Well, if I had a client with that situation, I would have to be way more educated. And actually, I would most likely refer her to a doula who has been serving the community well and with love so that they can walk her through what is necessary. You know, that is a population that deserves all kinds of perfection in their care. So I would not mess around with that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't give her half of a quarter of what she needs. I would make it my business to find the best doula who has been in that community and serving those ladies and make sure she can have the best experience possible for her. Any other questions? Got you with that apple. Just like that mouthful of beautiful apple. Okay. So I've included here a list that I want you all to put in your files at home and to have it to refer to. You refer to it many times. It's a list of drugs not approved by the FDA to be used in obstetrics. And, you know, take a look through because what do you see? What do you see? A lot of stuff that's used all the time. Fentanyl's on here. Morphine's on here. Yes, medications that are the medication Phenergan is for vomiting in labor, very commonly given out. Prozac's on here. Valium's on here. A lot of very common Cytotec, of course. Misoprostol is on here. Nuvane. Important to know, important to share for your own information as a birth worker and for clients.
So this is a list that I would get used to understand, be familiar.
It's important for you to have an understanding and knowledge of these medications and the fact that they are not approved for obstetrical use and that they are used all of the time.
So I would share this with the parents, with the expectant couple.
Sure. You have a client who's trying to have an unmedicated birth, understanding that morphine has not been tested on pregnant women is encouragement for that decision to have an unmedicated birth. Huh? Absolutely. And I also have included for you a lovely handout done by our friends over at Azazi Village, and just talking about a birth plan for Black families and looking at You know, some of the statistics, African American women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy complications than white women. And our babies are 679 deaths per 100,000 live births. These are ridiculously high numbers. That's a lot of wasted lives. And our sister Sherry Payne has just changed her beautiful name, and I'm spacing on it right now, so forgive me, Sherry, if you see this video. Her quote is, "Racially based inequities in perinatal outcomes are largely the result of bad policy rather than bad behavior." And that is really important for us to remember as caregivers of color and women of color, that the vast majority of women, if they had access to the appropriate resources and access to the appropriate information, would do a lot better for their babies. And even women who do everything perfectly, they're still walking into a system where white supremacy and racism reign and impact their hard work of trying to do everything they can for themselves and their babies. So as I'm going to wrap up and say, one of the most important things that we can do for all women, and definitely for Black and brown women, is to remind them that their bodies are not faulty, that we are powerful, powerful beings. And with the right resources and the right support, healthy women can have healthy babies and be powerful, amazing mothers, and one day tremendous elders in their communities. And that's our role to help guide that into happening. Thanks for listening to me.